From tornadoes to hurricanes, blizzards, and everything in between, you're listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. The Stormfront Freaks are former television meteorologist Mark Massaro, atmospheric science graduate and Skywarn storm spotter Brady Harris, digital meteorologist and weather producer on the Weather Channel app Dina Knightley, former on-camera meteorologist at the Weather Channel Kim Cunningham, and I'm your announcer and Skywarn Network coordinator Mark Johnson. Now, here's the moderator of the Stormfront Freaks podcast, Skywarn storm spotter and chaser Phil Johnson.
Hey, welcome everybody to the most entertaining weather podcast on your listening and viewing device. This is the Stormfront Freaks podcast. It's brought to you by Extreme Tornado Tours. They're the world's most popular storm chase tour company. It's probably because these guys always seem to be on the major storms. But seats for the 2019 season are filling up fast. So go ahead and visit extremetornadotours.com so that you can reserve your seats and also learn more. ETT, got to be there. So we're happy to be sharing and partnering with those guys. If you happen to be a first-time listener tonight, thanks for stopping by. Be sure to go to stormfrontfreaks.com, access our library of previous shows and famous guests from the weather industry. One of our more recent episodes had meteorologist and American Ninja Warrior Joe Moravsky was on with us. But tonight, this is episode 74, and as part of our Coast to Coast with your favorite TV meteorologist series, we've got morning meteorologist and storm chaser from FOX San Antonio, Brad Sowder, is joining us tonight. So welcome, Brad. We'll be playing our lightning round game with him. And in light of the deadly Lee County, Alabama tornado, we're also going to be asking the question if there's really anything more we can be doing to try to save more lives. So we'll get into that topic. We also have our new tracker chat and tornado track segments. And then we'll also try and lighten things up a little bit at the end with our hashtag Weather Fools and a visit from Weather Trollbot 5000. Yes, she's coming back. Hold your applause. But before we get to that, I do want to share it's National Weather Podcast Month, and we're encouraging everyone to take the Weather Podcast Challenge, where you listen to an episode of each of the 6 weather podcasts this month. You can visit weatherpodcastmonth.com, find out more, learn more about some of these other great weather podcasts like Weather Hype, Ice Station Houseman, Weather Brains, B Squared, and then with us tonight from the Carolina Weather Group podcast is co-host Chris Jackson. So Chris, welcome.
Welcome, Chris.
All right. Glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
You got to make sure you sign the waiver form before you came on, because you got to make sure.
I think I missed that. You might want to shoot me another email with that one.
I might have to do that. So, but hey, it's always happy hour here at Stormfront Freaks Bar. Best way to introduce our co-hosts and also kind of let you know that we kind of like to have fun around here is to find out what everybody's drinking. So I'm going to start with our intern here this spring, Morgan Clarks from Ohio State University. It's good to have you back. What are you drinking tonight, Morgan?
Today I'm actually double fisting, starting off with a LaCroix lime.
Wow.
Okay. It's non-alcoholic lime LaCroix. And then Braxton Brewing Company, Grater's ice cream. My Cincinnati guys know what's up with that. The black raspberry chocolate chip flavor. They made it into a milk stout.
No,
sipping on that.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh.
Okay.
Yep. Braxton's out of Northern Kentucky. There, good place.
Covington, yeah.
Yep. So
found
all
it
right,
at Kroger.
awesome. MJ, what are you drinking tonight?
We got a Michelob Amber Bock tonight.
Keeping it simple.
Keeping it simple. Yep.
That's good. Maz, what do we got?
So Morgan, is that alcoholic beverage?
The beer, yes.
Yeah?
The LaCroix,
Okay.
no.
Okay, so I figured the LaCroix. In 40 days, I'm going to have one of those.
Oh,
40
did you
days.
give it up for Lynn?
There
Yeah,
you go.
I am beverageless. Beverageless?
Wow.
Anyway.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking at y'all going, oh, I should have
All
given
right,
up
that's
something
He's
else.
getting mad,
Praise
I
the
can
Lord.
tell.
we
Yeah.
can't have him on the show for another
So
40
grumpy.
days.
No.
He's getting irritated.
All right, Dina.
Already.
Dina, what are you drinking tonight?
I
gal?
have some
What
of
do you
that
got?
old smoky blackberry moonshine when you put a lot of like cranberry juice and stuff in it. It's so good.
Good.
Tasty, and it's mellows you right out.
Nice.
We need you to do a breathalyzer as the show goes on.
I'm not driving.
That's true. And then Chris Jackson, I really didn't kind of tell you how we do things around Stormfront Freaks podcast, but what are you drinking tonight?
It's all good as long as we got beer. I got a Sweetwater Blue here in Boone, Atlanta.
Attaboy.
Perfect.
Attaboy. Welcome. You belong with the team now. You're in.
Brad,
I'm going to go ahead and ask you anyway, our guest. You happen to bring anything with you tonight?
Well, I've got a glass of water, but not just that. I do, within distance reach, have a little Sierra Nevada, some Torpedo. They've got a new brewery there in Chris in the Carolinas, there in Arden, actually. So also, of course, in California, but the Carolina one's really beautiful there.
Very nice. Well, let's do this. We'll Brad, let's give you a real good, much better introduction than that. But I'll turn over to Dina.
All right, I'll do my best. All right, tonight we welcome Brad Sowder. He's the morning meteorologist from FOX29 in San Antonio, Texas. He's an Emmy Award-winning severe weather expert. Recently spent several years forecasting morning weather in Oklahoma City, and was a featured storm chaser during severe weather. He is one of the only meteorologists that has chased tornadoes from a helicopter. Before Oklahoma, Brad forecasted for a number of years in Colorado. Brad is originally from Virginia and is an atmospheric science graduate from the University of North Carolina, Asheville. So, Brad, you've been all over. Most meteorologists that I meet have moved multiple times. But really, you've lived in Virginia, you've had Colorado in winter weather, and you've had Oklahoma City and San Antonio. Like, what's the craziest weather you've ever seen?
Wow. Okay. Well, you've got a taste for all of that a little bit. I guess, for me, it's probably Colorado probably had the craziest day-to-day change. But when you come to the most extreme, Oklahoma, obviously, just with insane characteristics of severe weather. I mean, that, it doesn't get any bigger than that.
I always wonder, I always wonder because people say, sometimes I expect them just to say some tornado, and then they'll be like, oh, it was an ice storm, or it was this. So it's definitely always a different answer.
It is. Oklahoma doesn't have quite the variety that Colorado has. So there's more weather in Colorado. Oklahoma, you have 3 months of craziness, maybe less than that, but the potential is always there. In Colorado, you go from having a blizzard one day to 85 degrees the next day and back to another blizzard again. There's a lot more day-to-day change.
With the marijuana ban lifted, some more of everything in Colorado now, isn't there?
I guess they have to do whatever to smooth out the weather. Need something to relax them a little bit, maybe.
So what was the reason? Why'd you move from Oklahoma City to San Antonio?
Well, being in Oklahoma for 5 or 6 years, it's busy. When it's real busy, it's real busy. We moved there at the end of 2012. My family, my daughter. I didn't get to see as much of them as I would like to, honestly. So it's almost like, in order to appreciate life, in order to be able to storm chase more on a when you want to basis, I had to kind of get away from it all. It's kind of like the person that lived in a vacation town never really gets to vacation. Because they're always there. So kind of had to pull back a little bit, something a little more stable, away from it all, and just try something a little different.
How different is forecasting in San Antonio compared to Oklahoma City? Much different?
Well, San Antonio is very, very quiet. There's not a lot of day-to-day variation. So really the move for us to San Antonio was one to where I can have more of an expected regular schedule, but still, when severe weather season comes around, chasing in Texas. And that's what we're going to be doing here with the station, is I'm going to try to do some of the similar things that we did in Oklahoma, where I would do morning weather and then go out and chase on the bigger weather days, or have somebody fill in as well, just to be able to get out there.
You prefer to just be more of a lazy forecaster, is kind of what you're saying.
I think
right?
so.
I think
so. Yeah. After 2013 in Oklahoma being my first season, that was, baptism by fire there. And then just to be able to, try something a little less extreme. I don't necessarily like the severe weather coming to my house.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
That's
about San Antonio is, one, it's very hot. It gets so hot there. And two, San Antonio floods very easily. When there's a lot of rain, they flood all the time.
No doubt. There are more low water crossings here than anywhere else. Some people call this the flash flooding capital of the country. And, there's a big responsibility in that. So either you have a flood or you have a drought, or it's just hot as heck. But not quite as many extremes, I would say.
Do we know who actually has the flash flood capital?
Well, here in this area, right under the soil, about 18 inches down, you have this limestone bed. I mean, there's tons of limestone. So with the hill country on the north side, and as you make your way up towards Austin, you get 2 inches of rain, and once it hits that solid rock, it just runs right off. The ground doesn't hold that much water. So when it all runs downhill, it's like a giant parking lot, if you will, for hundreds of square miles. So flooding gets really bad really quickly. And there's a ton of people, obviously, moving into this area, and not everybody gets the warning. And everybody's in a hurry, and they try to get to where they're going. And, unfortunately, things happen.
So how many weather hits do you have a day? Because mornings is insane.
It's a lot. We start our Fox morning broadcast at 5 a.m. and it runs till 9 a.m. So it's a 4-hour show. And then we come back on from 11 to noon. So I can't even figure it all out.
Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot.
5 hours of shows. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every 5 or 10 minutes a weatherhead. So it is a lot. It is a lot for sure.
You need to ask for a raise.
Yeah, really. So I got to tell you something, Brad. I remember back in 1986. I remember the day because we were actually watching TV. This was in Fridley, Minnesota, and there was a KARE 11. It was I think it was the NBC station. And
Correct.
MJ, you might remember this.
Correct.
But Max Mesmer was a helicopter pilot, and I had read a little bit after the fact, but they were up in the air trying to shoot some parade or something that was going on near the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and there was a tornado. And so they left the parade to go film the tornado. And so from their helicopter, and he was so here's the pilot is the live reporter, and then he had a cameraman in the back. But I remember watching that. We were watching it live when it was happening.
Yep.
This helicopter image filming a tornado. So when I saw that you had chased tornadoes in a helicopter, I'm like, God, I remember that.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I guess tell us a little what that's all about.
It's scary.
Oh my God.
Oh, and we with all the equipment weight in the chopper, you can't take another camera person. So we were in a Bell Ranger, and I was running the cameras in the back, so I had to sit in the back seat. So most of my view were the screens, and you would forget that I'm next to the storm at 2,000 feet because you're still kind of watching it through a screen. You would only remember that, holy crap, I'm right by this door when you start moving around a little bit, and your pilot's saying, hey, I feel the inflow. It feels like it's pulling us in. I'm like, well, you can't be right here,
We'll go the other way.
Danger.
So, visibility is an issue. I feel like on the ground you can see more. I think the advantage of the chopper is, of course, you have a great camera. You don't have any trees or anything obstructing your view. You can get somewhere a lot quicker. You don't have to worry about traffic necessarily. But on a storm day, it's hazy, it's humid, and you can only see so far before kind of the visibility is obscured. At the ground level, you can get a lot closer, too close, and you can't get all that close. Yeah, exactly. And drive out of it, hopefully. But yeah, you can't get in the hail core. You can't get in the rear. You can't go behind the storm in a chopper because the wind is pushing down. Rear flank downdraft, that'll ground a chopper or a plane. So there's a much more limited area where you can be.
Where's the fun in that? If you can't do this, you can't do that.
Come on, if you're tough, you get in the rear flank down draft.
Well, maybe in a car, you know, but not in a chopper. Yeah, it's, you know what, I prefer being in a vehicle, you know, so you can stop at a gas station and grab a drink.
I like it.
But I did it for a couple years, and you know, it's just kind of one of those boxes that say, all right, I've tried that, done that.
How many tours did you see? I mean, how often were you guys able to get close?
You know, my first tornado actually from the chopper was it was March 29th, I think, 2014, and it was 1 year after the Moore tornado, where it occurred in Moore. Actually, it was an EF2, and it was kind of the first test where, all right, we just had the F5, you know, in 2013. Now we have this EF2 coming in. So, yeah, it was right back in that corridor. So that was the first tornado from the chopper. I feel like it's harder to see from the chopper, actually, because you are so limited on where you can be.
You're absolutely right. You know, I can tell you, I fly airplanes also in South Carolina. So in the summertime, you know, you got 70-degree dew points here, and on a good day, even though it might be clear, the visibility aloft might only be 5 to 7, 8 miles, just because of the humid air.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or on a day where the bases are so low on the storms, you know, they're scraping, you know, just a few hundred feet off the ground. So can't even be anywhere close to that.
You guys are crazy. Like, well, what's next? Like hang glider in a tornado or something?
I'm so excited we got all these aviation like enthusiasts too.
Absolutely.
That was my beginnings too.
I'm more at home in the air than I am on the ground. Not gonna lie.
Good.
Wow. So Brad, tell us a little bit then. What are the chase opportunities like down in San Antonio? What have you seen? Have you had a full season down there yet?
You know, 2018 is pretty quiet nationwide. I didn't do any chasing in 2018. I mean, Texas was quiet. Oklahoma was quiet. This season, I think we're going to have, just based on, you know, obviously it can't be any quieter than last year. It's going to be busier this year. It's a little bit of a slow start, but we just saw what happened, obviously, in Dixie Alley. It's all going to shift. You know, we know that the planes open up in April and in May. So I am planning on getting out in April and May. San Antonio, you've got to go north of San Antonio, just north of the Hill Country. You get up just north of Austin, up into the Waco area, of course, and all of Central Texas. You get a lot busier there. And then, of course, you know, the Panhandle, Texas. So, yeah, I do plan on getting out there quite a bit, as long as I'm kind of one of the backyard chasers, you know, as long as it's close.
Okay.
So does your market reach up that far to Waco, Austin, that area? Or?
So things have changed a lot market-wise in television. You know, every year within the last couple of years, markets are getting blurred. The boundaries on where a market starts and where it stops are kind of going away. In fact, FCC just last year changed the law, saying that you don't even have to be in the market to broadcast within that, meaning that markets can merge. You can have, and I think it's a little bit unfortunate in a lot of areas where the traditional mold is, other markets are going to gobble up each other. I think stations are going to become more regional. I work for Sinclair Broadcast Group, of course, a corporation that is really expanding. And since it's a corporation, they like to do everything as efficiently as possible. So the Sinclair has markets in Austin and in Waco and other markets in Texas that aren't as large as San Antonio. We have a lot more resources. So we're going to be able to provide some of the tools we have and serve some of those other markets.
You know, if you want to raise, start doing a forecast for Seattle and just say that's part of our market now.
There you go.
Well, do you think these markets are going to gobble up the other ones and just they're going to be gone? Or
You know, with the whole cheaper is more mentality, just when it comes to everyone's trying to find a way to maximize resources, if you will, where, you know, we love automation and we love computers, but we're training all these computers and automation to take our jobs away from us, right? With every sector, everywhere. So we love the computers, but they also are replacing jobs. So I think every sector kind of has that going on in this day and age of just, you know, corporate America. But you kind of have to do that to survive as well. You saw what just happened to Staples, J.C. Penney. It was around our whole life, you know, Pennies or Sears, you know, things that have been the way they aren't going to stay the way they are. And TV is one of those things.
How do you see yourself having to adapt a little bit? Where do you see yourself having to find a niche?
You know, you really have to keep an open mind and try everything you can think of. I tell you know, you do the chasing in the helicopter, you do school visits, you do webcasts, you build up your social media following. It's almost continuing to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. And I don't think we always know what's going to happen tomorrow. Just like with social media, what platform rises from the dust while the other one comes down? What happens with broadcasting? I think the clearer picture is still not quite there. I think it's more in focus now than it was a couple years ago. I feel as though a lot of broadcasting is going to be a lot more specific and a lot more targeted. You're not going to be forced to watch the severe weather coverage if you're not affected by it on TV. Right now, you interrupt somebody's show, somebody that's not in the warning, oh, put it back on, put it back on. I think that's going to get better.
Do you have to do a lot of digital hits, or do they just clip your TV stuff?
So we will clip, obviously, what's happening on air. I think really it comes down to what's the weather event. Is it a day-to-day weather where maybe you don't need a meteorologist that day? You could ask your phone, you know, what's the weather going to be like? It's sunny and 70. Okay. But I think people now tune in when there's something happening, when there is a storm, when there is a warning. You want to be there for that always. And I think you do more in those events. And I think people will respond to that. So I think it's more coming down to an on-demand type of product that people want. And because I'd
like to speak as, like, you know, the younger generation that has always had the internet. I feel like I agree with you that we do actually pay attention more when stuff is actually happening, when there are events, because I don't have cable. I don't have, you know, the local channels. All I have are, like, I have a Roku TV, you know, and so I won't really watch the weather. I'll look at different, I mean, you know, I'm a little different meteorologist looking at models and stuff, but my friends, they trust their phones more. And if something happens, they'll look at the local meteorologists that they follow on Facebook, maybe. So, I mean, you still have an impact, and I'm sure as time goes by, we'll adapt to cable and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what,
exactly.
I was going to say, on that note, Brad, what's some advice, knowing how you've even had to adapt since you've come into the industry? What's some advice you can give students or other people that might be looking to get into TV meteorology? What could you tell them on what they can do to help them here as we're moving forward?
You know, I wouldn't focus so much necessarily on television, or focus on whatever platform it may be, but I also go and I try to communicate and tell students that maybe are thinking a weather service career or a research career, and encourage them to be really good at communicating face to face, camera to camera. Because even if you think you're just going to be more of a research and you're not so comfortable talking in front of people, well, you can always better yourself doing that. And the more you can leverage being comfortable in front of people, the better opportunities you will have, because there's definitely going to be a market of just good communicators and good people that are communicating warnings and information face to face. We don't want a robot. We don't want Alexa needs a face, right? Hopefully I didn't set any of your devices off. She needs a face. Otherwise, she would have replaced people that bobbed their head a long time ago.
People that bob their head all the time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll tell you what, we're going to do this. We're going to take a short break. Go ahead and refill your drink and check out our tracker chat segment with the Tornado Trackers. They're discussing camera equipment. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Tracker Chat. We are the Tornado Trackers, and this is your bi-weekly information on storm chasing. I'm Jeremy Heyman. I am also followed by my chasing partners, Gabe Cox and Jeff Mangum. How you guys doing?
I'm good, man.
Doing great.
So what we're talking about today is photography equipment, and there is a lot of it, a lot of options, a lot of opinions. You can pretty much use anything and everything while storm chasing. So let's kick it off with you, Gabe. Gabe, you are the most professional filmmaker of all three of us, so I am very interested in hearing what you prefer while taking video and photos while chasing.
Surprisingly, you would think, because I'm a filmmaker, that I would have a lot of opinions, but I do not. I have never been a gearhead. I've been a visionary with image in mind that I pursue, but as far as the gear that I use to capture that image, I've never been super picky. So I can talk about what I have now, which I absolutely love, which is the Panasonic GH5. I have used that in blizzards and nor'easters and chasing tornadoes and multiple hurricanes, and it is a fantastic camera, and it is, most importantly, water resistant. I kind of abuse my cameras, so I don't have a case for it, which I should, but in chasing the blizzards and the nor'easters, with salt spray, and in the hurricanes, I have not covered it, and it's held up amazingly. So when it says weather resistant on the GH5, you can believe it. It has been tested.
Cool. And you do shoot some incredibly beautiful images. Check out Tornado Trackers 2018 year in review video on YouTube, and you'll see that being featured on there. Jeff, you are known on our team as the gear horse. You have a lot of gear that you bring along on chases, but if you could briefly give us a rundown of what you like to use while chasing.
Yeah, I struggle with FOMO, so there's always the fear of missing out on a particular part of a storm. So I have a few different things going on at the same time, for better or worse. For photography, I have a Canon 6D, and so I've used that some for video. It doesn't shoot 4K, but shoots great photos. I had a Panasonic HC-VX 870, and so that's a 4K camera. It did not do well in low light situations, so that was always a bit of a frustration, but it was good for me. It is not water resistant, and so Hurricane Michael treated that thing very, very poorly. And then I always have one or two GoPros going on, and preferably something utilizing 4K and kind of the wide angle facing forward. And if I can, I'll have one facing back.
Yeah, it's so fun to finish a chase and then pull up the GoPro footage and kind of get a little present, a little surprise. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. And I am kind of the weird chaser in terms of gear. I love using my iPhone. I have an 8 Plus, which I love. The iPhone isn't obviously a professional grade video capture device, but it does a really, really great job. And one of our most popular videos on YouTube was shot on a 7, I believe, in 4K, the Oklahoma Wynnewood EF4, and it looks great. It looks really beautiful, and so I use that a ton. I also have a Sony A6000. It's a great cheap consumer mirrorless camera, and Sony is just super solid. So as you can see, we're all three of us are we kind of march to the beat of our own drum. One of my favorite pieces of advice on cameras I've ever heard is the best camera that you have is the one that you have on hand. So if you have an iPhone, use your iPhone. If you have an iPad, and you want to, and you're out there and that's all you got, shoot some pictures and videos on there. But
yeah, I'm going to add on to that iPhone sentiment too. That's how our team started. We were all shooting exclusively on iPhone when we first started. I was even making sales with my iPhone footage for a while, which helped me to save up for the GH5. So don't discount your iPhone.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're just going to get better and better. And Android phones too are wonderful. I know the camera on the Pixel 2, I believe, is kind of the industry standard right now. So very cool. Well, thanks guys. This has been Tracker Chat with the Tornado Trackers. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're with Fox San Antonio morning meteorologist and chaser Brad Sowder. We're going to jump to our question of the week. And, there hasn't been a major EF4, EF5 tornado or deaths from a tornado all of last year in 2018. And the first EF4 that we have here in 2019 causes 23 deaths in Lee County, Alabama recently. So I wanted to kind of ask everybody, ask all the freaks and our guests, what more can be done? Okay, there's only been 100 deaths in a year 4 times since 1980. Okay, so in the last 39 years, there's only been 4 years that we've had more than 100 tornado deaths. But that has happened 16 times in the previous 39 years, from 1940 to 1979. So there is obviously an improvement going on here, but can there be anything else? Are we at that point to where it's like, you know what, man, we're doing everything? And Brad, I'm going to start with you, kind of get your feedback on that a little bit. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, this latest storm, this devastating news, obviously, to be able to hear that many people lost their lives. We know that there are going to be tornadoes that are going to be that strong and stronger and hitting more and more populated areas as urban expansion continues. We know that. What is so hard is to know that these people, I've been reading a lot of the reports, were in their homes. They weren't in cars. They weren't storm chasing. They were in homes. Now, we know this is a very rural part of the country. It's way out there. This wasn't a big city in Lee County. The homes, most of those, the majority of them seem to be modular mobile homes, not stick-built. They're not as strong. I don't know necessarily if the warning process can get much better than it is. Lead time on warnings are good. We can always do better with that. I'm thinking now, from my point of view, is making sure people have a safe place. That if they're going to have a mobile home in Alabama, Dixie Alley, Tornado Alley, that within walking distance, they have a safe shelter. And they know how to get in it. And once they get the warning, they have somewhere to go. The people that died, they probably got the warning. They probably did, but
just had no place to go.
They had nowhere to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here quick, and then Morgan and whoever go ahead. But that was exactly what I was going to say. I said as I looked at and read about some of the things, I looked at how many of the people were in the manufactured homes and without a basement, because you could see even in the reports that were done about the homes that had been pulled up off the foundation. And of course, the foundation of a mobile home is not much. And even some of the talking to some of the survivors who talked about being in their bathroom, which is like the most interior place they could go. And they just hunkered down and hoped that was because that's the only place they could go. So I think you're right. I think they were getting the warnings. And I will say that a couple of our viewers on the chat chimed in with exactly the same thing too. So I think you hit on it right there.
There's been a ton of scientific research coming out, and they showed maps about how many manufactured homes were in the area. And there was a lot of people who did. They did what they were supposed to. They went inside, they got in the most interior room or a closet, and that wasn't good enough. And Brad, you had mentioned, getting to a safe shelter, but what if their lead time is not enough? I mean, just the day after, I think on Monday or 2 days after, we talked to a storm chaser that he was coming from, I think, Columbus, Georgia, and heading west to get to that storm. And he said it was amazing that, he came up on this and there's nowhere for these people to go. They hunker down, but what do you do? I mean, there's been so much talk in the industry about safety. Would you stay in the mobile home, or would you get out and get in a ditch? Would you go in your car? There's really no good answer.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't get in a ditch. I wouldn't stay in a mobile home. What I've always told people in the past, where they say, well, what do you do? What do you do? And my advice has been, well, first of all, this time of year, if you are in a tornado-prone area, we have a responsibility to kind of be aware of when it's a storm day. It's today a storm day. Watch the weather forecast. Okay, it's not. Well, then go about your business. If it's a storm day, though, then pay attention to the warning or the window of when the storms could come, and then don't be where you can't get to somewhere safe. If it requires to go stay with a friend or a family member, or go to the shopping mall. I've even told people to do that before. They're worried about getting hit in their car. We'll park in the parking garage at a mall, or go to a store that has a safe place. Find somewhere where you can be, where if you need to get shelter, you can. And that's still a really difficult thing to accomplish, though. The best answer is for people to have a shelter close by, and if they can't afford it, some sort of community programs to be able to install these.
I would think at this point there has been enough, and again, maybe not, but I would think that one of the biggest things that it seems everyone should know is that manufactured homes, mobile homes, are not safe in tornadoes. And so, but the fact is people are still in them when tornadoes are coming. So the issue, whether it's lead time or it's communication, and I'll throw this out a little bit, with the changing demographics of our country, do we need to do a better job from a communication standpoint with different languages? I would say especially that, because I have personal experience. Weather radios obviously can work, but they don't work everywhere. And especially in some of these backwater areas, hilly areas, they don't get the signal to work. And so I don't know that weather radios are the answer for everything either, but I think I'd agree, it's a communication, and it's a having access to shelters. But what do you guys think about communication wise and languages?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely communication. I think it's multifaceted. For you guys, you might not be aware, I was actually out chasing that same storm on Sunday. And, I was all across between Columbus, Eufaula, and all the way down toward Albany later in the day. But, that place is really, really rural. And you may be an hour from the closest town. I know for a solid hour and a half, Sunday evening, I didn't have any cell service, or Saturday, the day of the tornado, but I had no cell service whatsoever. And, I'm just at the mercy of the sky at that point, just knowing what the storms are doing. At one point, I was surrounded by 9 tornado warning storms within like 30 miles. It was just crazy. But, the communication is definitely important, and being able to communicate in times of non-severe weather and actually, have effective communication and build that trust with your viewers and the people that may follow you. And that way, when the time comes along to sound the alarm, they do listen to you.
Chris, what was that? What was the time of day that you were tracking everything?
I stayed at the Renaissance Hotel at Hartsfield Jackson the night before, and left out of there. Oh gosh, probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Went straight down to Columbus and hit the warm front in Columbus. Went from 62 to 73 degrees in about 9 miles.
Wow.
It was pretty impressive. Yeah, and from there I was down there the rest of the day.
The language, when you guys talk about the language, I think that's important because a lot of times on this show, we've talked about how much sometimes things get too hyped or, it's all sounds the same to people. And we were talking even at work today about the severe threat we have on this Saturday. Is it going to be a big outbreak or is it going to be a bust? And that's the problem. You could hype it up. And I'm not one to hype. I'm probably the opposite. Like, it's going to have to be a big deal for me to get all bent out of shape about it. But you think about this, if you get everybody wound up and they believe you and then it fizzles or there's a cap or there's too much convection in the morning and too much cloud cover and it doesn't happen, people are like, oh, guys.
And that's the tough part, I think, Dina, is being able to not just communicate the risk, but communicate what could be the proverbial fly in the ointment. What could mess this up, and that way they really start. Your people start to understand, well, what are the things in play here, because the weather's science and it's complicated. It's never clear.
Yep.
Well, and losing cell service, if you're there, I mean, think about it. Like Morgan saying, hey, we rely on our cell phones.
Right.
But I'm sure there are a lot of places where cell service is just not very good.
Oh, it was non-existent in South Central Georgia, east of Albany and east of 77. I mean, I-75. There was like 5 or 6 towns I went through. I had no cell service, and I got AT&T.
Yeah.
But they're glad you just said that.
AT&T plug there. We got ourselves a new sponsor.
Don't come to me.
What else? Anybody else have some comments on that? Are there still opportunities to try and save lives, or have we kind of reached the limit of how much we can do?
We can do better with communication. We can, especially areas that don't have the cell service, to be able to get to them. Absolutely. We also have to, when you have a killer tornado that's coming, sometimes you can hear it coming. Okay. And that'll give you a lead time of a couple of minutes. I know that's not a lot, but if you have somewhere, if you had 2 minutes to be able to run out and get into a shelter, that would be possibly enough lead time to save your life. When it comes to communication, sometimes people will hear that tornado and they think, well, this is it. It's over for me. I don't have a below ground shelter, or I can't survive in this mobile home. That's not true. People can survive, not necessarily in a mobile home, but they can survive in a stick-built home even during the strongest tornadoes. But they're going to need somewhere at least better than a vehicle or a mobile home is a vehicle. They need somewhere that is safer to be. Because communication is only so much. I've directly spoken to people saying, hey, there's a tornado coming right here. I'm out chasing. You have about 5 or 10 minutes. Where is your safe place? And they say, well, I don't know. And they go back in and crack open a beer and didn't even come back out of their house. We had to go. So they didn't take any action at all, even though they can't get better communication than that. If they had a shelter, well, maybe they'd have a couple extra minutes. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Well, the thing is, I feel that people don't have the self-efficacy. They think that they can't. There's no shelter. I can't go to the interior of a bathroom because it's not going to work out. So they just kind of wait it out. I'm actually writing a paper in one of my communication classes about, relating it to weather, making it about severe storms and how people perceive communication efforts. And I think if we were to, and a lot of people do, and a lot of broadcast meteorologists do this, they provide people with the correct procedures. It's just some people they don't think it applies to them, or they've lived through it. They've, there's been an F4 like a mile outside my house, and my house is still standing, and they think that it's not going to be a big deal. I watched, what was it? House Hunters International. They said a hurricane destroyed their vacation home. They were looking for a new vacation home. They're like, well, a hurricane's not going to hit the same place twice. Do you know where they're in the same area?
I'd like to jump in here a little bit. Something that I've seen a lot, of course, over the southeast of the Carolinas is, we have a lot of people that's moved down here from other parts of the country. And as silly as this may sound, they literally have no clue where they are on a map. They look at a map and they don't know where they're at. And that's something that I've been trying to work on from my end, for the last couple of years.
And I think that's awesome. And hey, guys, I'm sorry I'm late. I just got down here. I'm all for self. You're responsible for your life. And I sometimes have a hard time thinking that we need to, and I'm all for helping people and trying to get them ways to be notified. But what happened to them taking responsibility for finding a way to be notified? Or I don't know. Sometimes it just bothers me. I think sometimes people, no matter what you do for them, they're just not going to listen or do it. I think to advocate for them to, take responsibility for them and their families, and why not try to get them to do it that way? I don't know.
I totally agree with you. A lot of people,
it drives me crazy.
They have apps and everything else that tells them everything they need to do for the day, tells them the weather, tells them the time, if someone messaged you. And I think there's a lot of people that look for an app that tells them they're going to be okay and try to get the confirmation bias in their head.
Yeah.
They want to hear what they want to hear.
Exactly.
Not what they want to hear. They ignore it.
But why aren't they trying to, they know they live in the South. They know there's tornadoes. They know it's the season. Why aren't they being proactive and trying to figure out a way to be notified?
Do you think that's changed, Kim? Do you think that's changed over time, gotten better, gotten worse, or it's just about the same as it's always been?
I think it's the same.
I
think it's the same.
It's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
That's where the broadcast meteorologists, come in and they build the trust with the community, and people that live in these rural areas, they're going to be the ones watching TV and not relying on their cell phones because they don't have data. And if you trust your local meteorologist and they're telling you, hey, storm's coming, this is what you got to do, then they're going to do it. And sometimes they don't do it, but
just to give you guys another angle about me, I spent 15 years of my life as a professional firefighter here in Columbia. And during the 2015 floods, I was a swiftwater rescue instructor in technical rescue and urban search and rescue stuff. But we rescued 196 people in 48 hours, me and about 20 other people. And the resounding answer is that most everyone we plucked out of their houses, cars, et cetera, they didn't think it would happen to them.
Yeah.
Sure. And the warning was there. The warning was there 3 days in advance. It's just like, what more can we do?
Exactly.
Look at how much video we show nowadays. I mean, not only are we giving them the warnings and the forecast, but we're showing them exactly what could happen. And people just don't. I think it's just that people don't think it's going to happen to them. It's the same reason people drive through a flood. It won't happen to me.
Well, I'll say this. I obviously think the data proves that what has been done has gotten better. There have been fewer deaths. There have been, so I would say the communication's better. I would say the access to shelters has probably gotten better. I think certainly that could get a lot better. I believe the communication's gotten better, but I think there's room for improvement there. But I would say the good news is certainly things have gotten better with technology and everything that we've been doing, and hopefully we'll keep going in that direction. But we want to know what you think about that. You can always reach us via social media on Facebook or Twitter. Just search Stormfront Freaks. Let us know your thoughts, or drop us an email at questions@stormfrontfreaks.com. And Brad, how can our listeners and viewers, how can they follow you, reach you?
Yeah, so whether your cup of tea is Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, just search for meteorologist Brad Sowder on one of those. I honestly don't even remember all of my little handles, but usually just type in the name and boom, it'll hopefully pop up.
It's magic. It's always Always magic. Well, hey, that's the sound. It is time for our lightning round. So this is our game show of flashy questions we always have with our guests. We invite you to play along with us as well. Tonight, we're going to play something. We're calling it Tech Now. Tech Now. So here's the scoop, Brad. I understand you think you're pretty good at technology, or you know a lot about technology. Is that?
I like it. I spend a lot of money on it.
A lot of money.
He's the guy that does all the hooking up of TVs and computers, right? I bet.
Yeah, I was doing that today. Yeah.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do, Brad. You're gonna play along here, and we always invite our freaks, our co-hosts. They're certainly welcome to chime in and try and steer you to the right direction. But I'm gonna give you two pieces of technology, and you have to tell me which one is tech now, and which one is a technology that hasn't quite yet been developed and made available to the public. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
the ones that are available now are from the Consumer Electronics Show of 2019. So these were just introduced at the beginning of the year. So they are out there. So you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. So here's what we're going to start with. First two. One piece of technology is a rollable television. So it's a television that rolls up into a roll, and it's automated. You push a button and it comes out of the roll, comes right out of the roll.
LG, yeah.
The second one is a heart monitoring T-shirt. So it's a T-shirt you wear that can help monitor your arrhythmia and heart rhythms, especially if you happen to have, from a precautionary standpoint, any issues there. So the question is which one is tech now compared to which one is not now?
Well, I saw that LG rollable TV. I didn't get to go to the
Wait, it rolls
show.
up? It rolls up like oh my God.
So is that your answer? Is the rollable TV?
Yeah, that's available now. Yeah.
All right, you would be correct, and it actually is LG. So that's pretty impressive. You got that. All right, here's the next one. So this piece of technology is actually, so everyone knows about virtual reality. That is a thing. But this is virtual reality that now is sold by a car manufacturer, and the kids in the back seat can basically put on the Oculus Rifts or whatever the virtual reality headset is, and whatever it's showing goes along with the speed and the stopping and the turning of the vehicle. So you're actually, while you're riding in the car with mom and dad or whoever it might be, you can see this virtual reality that's moving along with the speed and location of your car. So that's number one. Number two is using coffee grounds. So everybody drinks a lot of coffee. There's a worldwide issue. It's a worldwide thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
So there's a lot of coffee grounds. So they talk about coffee waste. And so this piece of technology actually uses those coffee grounds for biofuel and creates fuel. To me, this reminds me certainly of Back to the Future, right? And shoving that stuff in the... So one of those is technology now, and one is technology that's not quite here yet.
Wow. Well, I don't know much about VR. I haven't used it, but so I'm just gonna have to stab at this. I'll say that the coffee grounds are now.
Coffee grounds now.
Oh,
that's correct.
That's misconfusion.
That is on the way, but it is not here now. So Audi, the vehicle manufacturer, and Disney has gotten together to do these VR reality things while you're riding in the car. That was introduced. So, all right, here we go. So you're one and one. Next one is so forest fires, putting out forest fires using drones. So using drone technology, which obviously is very popular. But what these drones can do is now fly to these forest fires, and using sound, they can use sound waves to help put out and redirect the fires because it can extinguish the oxygen and all that kind of stuff using blasts of sound waves. The other piece of technology is smartwatch, which that is a piece of technology now, but this is a smartwatch that's powered. Everyone's got battery issues, right? This is a smartwatch that is powered by the heat from your body, powers it and keeps it going. So which of those is tech now and which is not now?
Oh,
boy, they both sound like
wow. Can I phone a friend on this one?
Well, I always say the freaks can always jump in and give their feedback.
Let's take this one here.
Number two.
I don't know.
So do you guys think it's the heat-powered smartwatch or the
I'm gonna say it's
sound
the
wave
drone.
drones?
Yeah, I'm going drone.
Sound wave drones.
Going the
The
watch.
drone one
Yeah.
had the most detail.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You're
right.
looking into it too much.
Hey, I got the last one right because
Okay.
it had all that detail.
All right, so there you go. What do you think, Brad?
I'll go with my panel here, and we'll say drones.
Drones?
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
Sorry,
Number
sorry.
It
2.
is the solar and body heat powered smartwatch.
Oh no, you didn't say
Wow.
solar. If you just
Yeah,
said
that
that,
solar
No,
changed
I,
the game a little bit.
I know. That's
it.
all right. It's still heat. I didn't add that on purpose.
Brad's
It's-
never
it's
been here, so he
also
knows
powered.
the first rule is to not listen to the freaks. But you know.
That's right.
Okay, that's true. All right, so here we go. We got two more. So next one. So this is we talked earlier. Someone was talking about a breathalyzer. Who was that?
I was me.
Okay. So all right. So this is a vehicle. It's basically a breathalyzer vehicle that can detect the levels of alcohol in the air when you get into your car, and also can detect on sensors on the steering wheel. Your blood can detect your blood levels and alcohol levels through the steering wheel.
You have to
And
be
if it
bleeding for that?
Nope. It's just like how your heart rate monitor can detect all that stuff. So, but it won't start the car obviously if the levels are too high. So that's one piece of tech. The second one is it's a skin wand that you basically can put across your face. You're in TV, right? This might be something up your alley. So it's a skin wand you put across your face, and it can detect little micro blemishes. And when it sees a micro blemish, it can put a little bit of droplet of makeup on that spot.
Oh.
And so when you're done doing this, you're all look good and you're perfect skin. So which one of those is tech now and which is tech not yet?
Oh boy.
Jeez.
So what was the first one again?
It was the breathalyzer. I'll just call it a breathalyzer car.
Yeah.
Breathalyzer car or a
I
skin
remember
wand?
hearing about the breathalyzer car. I think I remember hearing about that. I think that was one of the stories from the show. So let's go with that one, right?
Was that in court?
Okay, ready? That would be incorrect.
No way.
Now, I have heard of this. I have heard of a vehicle where you can connect like a breathalyzer and blow in it, and then
I've heard of
won't
that.
start or something.
No, wait, did you
This
make
is
that
a
up?
car where it's all built in. So that is not active yet. The one that is active is the skin wand that detects little
That
things.
sounds
And
very odd. I'm just going to say it.
well, it's
Wow.
there. It's there.
It's like
So
one of those
someone thinks it's
mirrors
gonna
where
sell.
you unnaturally look so closely at yourself that nobody would ever see it. It makes you look ridiculous.
All right, last
It
one. Let's see
depresses you.
if we can finish on a high note. Last one. So this piece of tech, we're going back to the smartwatch, but it's a smartwatch that now can actually and officially measure your blood pressure because it has a miniature blood pressure cuff in the watch band. So that's one piece of tech. The other one is now being able to use how cybersecurity and with passwords and all that kind of stuff. And now Facebook has the face detection, right? Or not Facebook, but Apple, right? And can open your phone with face detection. This is now using brainwave sensors because those are even more unique that it can actually detect your brainwave to open passwords, open other pieces of technology. So which of those is tech now and which of those is tech not yet?
Oh my
I
gosh.
think that other one sounds like Star Trek or something.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
I go with one.
Yeah.
Me too. One.
Yep.
Okay, we'll
All
try
right.
the one. I think I've already failed anyway.
You're going with one? That would be correct. All right, well done. So you finished on a strong note, so that's good. No one remembers the previous one, so as far as I'm concerned, you got them all right. So thanks for playing along, Brad. Well done. So hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna take our final break. We've got our new Tornado Talk segment with the story of the 1953 Flint, Michigan F5 tornado, and we'll be right back with some Weather Fools and Weather Trollbot 5000. We'll be right back.
It is considered Michigan's worst natural disaster in terms of deaths and injuries. The Flint Beecher F5 tornado of June 8, 1953. Per the Storm Prediction Center database, 12 tornadoes occurred on this day. 8 of them were in the state of Michigan, and 6 of the 8 were significant, with ratings of F3 or higher. At approximately 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a tornado developed 2 miles north of Flushing. Per the National Weather Service, it traveled 27 miles through parts of Genesee and Lapeer counties. Soon after its development, it grew to be almost a half mile wide as it slammed into the northern edge of Flint in the Beecher district. The tornado moved east-northeast, following a path just south of the Flint River. Several more communities were hit, and the tornado lifted just to the north of Lapeer. Soon after, a second tornado developed. It formed near Kings Mill and moved east to Lake Huron, passing north of Yale and between Jetto and Lake Port. The second tornado was given a rating of F4. The greatest damage was on both sides of Coldwater Road near Beecher. Homes were completely demolished. Per the National Weather Service, 340 homes were destroyed and 107 suffered major damage. Officially, the death toll from this devastating twister is 116. The National Weather Service in Detroit documented that the National Guard Armory building and other shelters were turned into temporary morgues. It was a horrifying scene. 113 of the fatalities occurred in Beecher in a 4-mile stretch of Coldwater Road from 2500 west to 1500 east. Out of the 116 killed, 55 were under the ages of 20, and 5 were less than 1 year old. As many as 20 families reported multiple deaths. The Flint Beecher tornado ranks as number 10 in the top 25 of deadliest U.S. tornadoes per the Storm Prediction Center. In a documentary series entitled Wrath of God, the Flint Beecher F5 was highlighted in one of its episodes. Coldwater Road resident Dorothy Robinson was interviewed.
The clouds looked really ominous. They were just rolling around like in all directions, and it was a muddy, coppery look. My husband and I were looking out the front door, watching the clouds. Suddenly, I heard this noise that sounded like jet planes flying over the house. He said, "It's not planes, it's a tornado coming." And I knew with a sound like that, it was going to be horrible.
Dorothy and her 2 oldest daughters hid under a bed. Her husband and youngest daughter ran for the shelter of a closet.
Suddenly, there was this noise that sounded like a shot, and it was the windows popping out, and right after that, I could feel the house sliding off the foundation. I remember being up in the air. I don't know how high, but things were coming at me from all directions, and then I was knocked out.
The town of Flint was instrumental in the recovery and rebuilding efforts of the Beecher community. They supported a Red Feather campaign to gather relief and rebuilding funds. Per an article in My City magazine, in August of 1953, Operation Tornado drew thousands of volunteers for a weekend building bee. The day after the Flint Beecher tornado, the same storm system spawned an F4 tornado in Worcester, Massachusetts. It killed 90 people and injured over 1,200. You can read about this event and many more on our website at tornadotalk.com and get hooked on more tornado history by following us on social media.
All right, welcome back. Time now for Weather Pool. This is always an interesting segment that we have. Sometimes it goes really well. Sometimes it's a big question mark, but it's always fun. We'll tell you that much. So Weather Fools, it's when you're finding people that are doing something in a weather phenomena that you're like, you're just dumb, buddy. All right. So to kick us off with that, Dina, you've got one, don't you?
Yeah, I do. This one is funny. I'm going to share my screen because it starts off with this guy on his above ground pool that's frozen because it's been so cold. And it says the word legend is thrown around about too much nowadays. That was the title, but my title would be like, "Hey, hold my beer." And he's trying to get water out of it. And the whole thing breaks open. All the water goes all over the yard, and the whole top of the water's a block of ice.
Yeah.
And he's almost like surfing on it. You saw him pick up his beer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You saw him pick up his beer.
His beer was on the ice, so while he was standing on the pool of ice,
I don't know why he's down there. Up there, like he was pulling off the panel. I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish there, but whatever. It's funny. You got to watch it.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that one.
I mean, the fact that he even was able to stand too, and stay upright.
Well, what are you trying to even accomplish here?
He should get some kind of an award for that, though, because that's great balance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, MJ, you got some viewer or listener?
I do. I have a couple of viewer or listeners. Let's see. See, now I've got to be able to share screen while I'm doing all this. There we go. And this one could probably work for the Weather Trollbot 5000. But this was Wes Peary from NBC 11 in Atlanta. And he was getting comments like crazy that you might be able to read on there when they were doing a tornado warning. So it says, okay, we get it. Tornado warning. Now please put the Gulf on full screen.
Oh gosh.
So we were just talking, Brad was talking about this earlier. And then you go further and there's some more and it says, turn this off and let's watch golf. Can you just get back to golf already? This is just a pub grab. Put the golf back on. And it just
Not like
keeps
it's the
going.
Super Bowl.
Yes.
In what world is golf more interesting than severe weather?
I know.
Well, and then somebody down at the bottom says, and here's the thing, it was the Honda Classic, a significant but not top tier golf tournament.
Yeah,
it wasn't like Sunday.
Priorities.
So anyway, so that was our friends at Helicity that certified this as a hashtag weatherfool.
Caddyshack.
And
Caddyshack
shared that
would
with
have
us.
been a golf one would have been better. Remember that one?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one. And then I'm sorry, that was that was Helicity. And then Ray Leichner shared another one for us. And this is what it was. And I got to run it back. And you can see that, right? It says, must watch, successful tornado intercept. So basically, these folks are going to do a Twister-style Dorothy deployment in a tornado. And right now, they're getting in the car because they want to go drive, toward the tornado. And they will proceed to drive toward the tornado and end up in the middle of the tornado, smashing out their windshield. And it's all the wrong things to do.
In their Toyota Prius.
Yes. And I'll see if I can fast forward a little bit. There you go. And now you can see they're sort of in the middle of it, as you can see the trees move. Yeah.
Gosh.
Anyway.
That was the Columbus. No, that was the Northeast Mississippi tornado.
Sure. So
was that you, Chris?
No, God, no. Absolutely not. I was chasing that. I was chasing that 2 weeks ago. Also, I was down in Philadelphia, Mississippi, south of Columbus.
Likely story.
Yeah.
So there
they
you go.
accomplished something very hard to do. To drive your car. I mean, that's hard to intercept the tornado. They did it.
Give them props.
You don't want to do that.
I don't think you want to do that, right? But
Should try it with a helicopter next.
There you go. All right, Phil, what do you got?
All right, so I've got a couple I'm going to share. The first one actually I just saw today was on social media. I think I saw this on Twitter, but there was a drunk driver that was arrested for running into the National Weather Service office in Midland, Texas.
Oh gosh.
Oh boy.
So and the comments are always, a lot of these National Weather Service field offices are kind of in out rural areas and things of that nature. Right. They're not downtown. And so for someone to be drunk and driving and happen to run into a National Weather Service office.
You told me there was going to be a tornado.
Yeah, it's you think of the meme, whatever meme you want, you can find that, and we'll put it in our show notes too, but you can find that picture, and then you can say whatever the heck you want to say about
here, hold my beer.
About the temperature being off by 2 degrees or whatever it is. The other one I wanted to share with you is pretty funny as well. And since we're still dealing with winter and snowy weather, I thought this would be an appropriate one to show everybody. So this was on, I'm going to pause this, and this was on Twitter. So this is Jack Durkin had a tweet of reporter Laura Perrot, P-E-R-R-O-T. Anyway, she's from CBS Charlottesville. And she's a reporter. She was getting ready to, I don't know what she's going to report on, obviously snow or something. And while she was sitting there or whatever she's doing, what happened was a snowplow happened to come by. And
whoops.
Slammed her with some snow. She got nailed by that snowplow's moving probably 45, 50 miles an hour.
Dirty snow.
Like it got
the dirty,
snow.
salty. Yeah, it's that kind of snow, and she got sprayed.
I'd like to hear her audio on that.
Well, actually, you can, and I'll share that too. But she screams. I don't hear anything after that, but she did scream. I think that just about does it for this episode of Stormfront Freaks podcast. Thanks for listening and watching. Before I reveal our next guest, if you enjoy our show, do us a favor, leave us a great review on your podcast app, and don't forget to subscribe to the show by hitting your podcast app subscribe button. Works just like a magazine or newspaper subscription. It's free. It just assures you get the latest episode of our show delivered right to your inbox the minute that we upload it. So I want to shout out special thanks to our guest, Brad Sowder, tonight. Brad, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and taking the time. And our co-host Chris Jackson as well was with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So Chris, do us a little favor. Tell us a little bit about Carolina Weather Group and how people can hear about you guys and what you're about.
Absolutely. So the Carolina Weather Group, we're just a local bunch of weather weenies from South Carolina, North Carolina TV Mets and private consultant meteorologists. We're on every Wednesday night live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at the Carolina Weather Group. We're also on Twitter at Carolina WX Group. And, basically we just try to discuss relevant topics in the weather community and, what we can do better to, take our field further up and just be better for science and for everyone that watches and listens.
Awesome.
Love that backdrop.
Thank you. I shot that picture last Friday night. A little mini supercell rolled right through Columbia, and I went out to a parking garage and shot some pictures.
So fancy.
They got fancy stuff.
They do, yeah. I'll tell you.
Carolina
Carolina Weather Group, Chris. You guys got some good video stuff going on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So here's what's up. Our next episode in 2 weeks. We're going to continue National Weather Podcast Month. We'll be recording on March 21st as we celebrate Women's History Month with award-winning meteorologist in Puerto Rico, Ada Monzon is going to be with us. So we're really looking forward to having her on as well.
Cool.
If you'd like to watch the recording live, you can do so. It's 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Go ahead and check us out on our YouTube channel by searching Stormfront Freaks. So for MJ, Maz, Dina, Kim, Morgan, our intern, Chris, Brad, we got a whole group tonight. I'm going to go ahead and signal the all clear, and we'll catch you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. Find our bi-weekly show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Watch our shows on YouTube and Oklahoma Weather Tracker TV. For show notes, additional information about this episode, as well as past and upcoming shows, videos, photos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our live interactive storm chaser radar provided by our friends at zoomradar.com. If you would like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.
In 3, 2. Hey, welcome everybody. And I don't even know what I'm saying here. Sorry, we're gonna have to do that again. I had the wrong script. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, 3, 2. Okay, I'm screwed. We're gonna try this again. I can't find my clap.
Wait, it's not welcome everybody? Is that?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm just
checking.
There. We got like 80 people on tonight, so that must be the issue. All right, 3, 2.